What's going on, hockey fans? Welcome back to Kasing the League on Believe Network, bringing you your top NHL headlines, hot topics, and most importantly, Stanley Cup final best bets. We are officially in the Stanley Cup finals, or as some people like to correct me on, final NVD. But yeah, game one went down Saturday, so we've got plenty to get into. And if you guys missed the previous episode of Kasing the League, you would have caught the fantastic Shukri Wright jumping in, chatting with us about the Boston Bruins, breaking down the emotions and the temperature in Boston as we speak, even giving us his insight on what moves he would make in this offseason before heading into next season. We talk a little superstition. We pick a song that describes the season the Bruins had, and then we move on to some Stanley Cup final best bets. Find out what he cashed, cased, or cut because we went about the series. So you don't want to miss that previous episode of Kasing the League. And most importantly, y'all, Kasing the League is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is our betting partner when we get into that fun cash it, case it, and cut it segment. Now, when it comes to Bet Online is your number one source for all your championship finals info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines and the latest matchup reports for this year's NBA and Stanley Cup finals. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season as we have you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs from basketball and hockey to MLB, UFC, and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your home. Get into the action today. Head to the website or use your mobile device to join, and be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. So don't forget to check that out and also follow up on these best bets that we will close Kasing the League with. Let's get to Kasing the League. Now, there's been some information. We haven't had some hot topic headlines in a minute. We've gotten straight to the betting, but a couple things have started to unravel. Some off-season moves have started to come alive and come about. First and foremost, Cole Caufield gets paid, or it's only fitting on Kasing the League to say Cole Caufield cashes in on an 8-year extension with the Montreal Canadiens at a $7.85 million AAV deal. So congratulations to him. We know that when health is on his side, he's been a crucial piece for Montreal. And we've seen the potential that Montreal has. They obviously were in a Stanley Cup final appearance just 2 seasons ago. And the Canadian team is fighting to make a run come this season, upcoming season, 2024, that is. And Montreal could be one of those contenders. Winnipeg, you guys heard my thoughts about Calgary in the first 2 episodes of Kasing the League. So great move by Montreal here. I think that's very deserving. Also, Anaheim Ducks, or Mighty Ducks, because there's been a new little documentary out there kind of going behind the scenes of the build out of the team and all things that you must know. Catch that information over at Bleacher Report. But the Ducks have found their new head coach and Greg Cronin. He's worked with teams such as the Islanders as well as the Maple Leafs. He was an NHL assistant coach for 12 years. He's focused on the AHL more so recently, but a lot of people seem to be very excited about this matchup, and you guys know how I feel. I like players, coaches. I like their style, intuition, and all of the things that I have said so much here on Kasing the League. So that's been tremendous. And then, as you guys know, one of my top coverage teams, the Tampa Bay Lightning, have been making a lot of moves today. Monday morning movement, making 3 different signings. Now, one signing in particular is no stranger to the Tampa Bay Lightning, as he has been working with the Syracuse Crunch. It's Sean Day. He got signed to a 1-year, 2-way contract last season. When he was with the Syracuse Crunch, he skated in 63 games, tallied 14 assists and points. Now, I will say the Tampa Bay Lightning picked up 2 defensemen, or signed 2 defensemen today, Day being one of them, one being a Norwegian player from the SHL, and then another one being a Finnish player, and he's a forward, actually. So 2 defensemen, 1 forward for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And if there's one thing that we talked about a lot when it came to the Lightning this previous season, was them trying to restructure their D zone without a big guy such as Ryan McDonough, switching that workload from Victor Hedman. We've seen the younger guys such as Mikhail Sergachev step up, Eric Chernak too, but he dealt with probably the most injuries he has in his career this previous season. So them making defense move is not surprising here. Now, the age, the experience, that might be a little surprising, but we'll see what takes place as the season or as the offseason continues further along, because the biggest thing on their agenda right now is figuring out how can they keep one of the faces of franchises, Alex Killorn. And we're hearing some rumblings that Alex Killorn and the Tampa Bay Lightning may be talking about a long-term deal that could be beneficial. That would obviously be spreading the masses amongst, a ton of, not a ton of years, but an extensive amount of time. We know that Killorn wants to close out his career in one sweater, and that being the Tampa Bay Lightning sweater. We also know that an extension is on the horizon for Steven Stamkos. So I think there's enough pieces for them to move if Alex Killorn can take some sort of pay cut to keep him around. And if there's one thing I can tell you about the Tampa Bay Lightning is that they are a family first franchise. They'll do whatever it takes. It just comes down to what Alex Killorn is looking and anticipating for his future. So a lot of movement in Tampa Bay. Ducks find a new head guy, and Cole cashes in on a nice little 8-year extension there, which brings us to chatting about game one a little bit. Saturday, the Vegas Golden Knights topped the Florida Panthers in a 5-2 victory. Now, if you guys paid attention to any of the previous episodes of Kasing the League, if you caught my conversation with Stu Cree, if you saw the morning after with Ben, or any conversations I have had in the past week, you know that I had Vegas taking game one for a number of reasons. They had a pretty little home streak going on themselves. They like to get things going in front of their home crowd. Their ability to command those game ones in round 2 and round 3 speaks for themselves. So Vegas Golden Knights, I just felt, had the heavier tilt there. I also think that the Florida Panthers' road success, although it was very consistent, although they had 8 wins, although that streak just broke, Vegas Golden Knights just seemed like a stronger, more formidable team on home ice in a couple of categories there. So they did take that game one. Now, I also had Florida Panthers still winning the series regardless of that game one result. My mind might change. I got to see what goes down tonight. But that brings us to what happened in game one. Well, game one opens up and Florida Panthers get on the board first. You're thinking, here we go. This is the team that's been on a hot streak, almost swept 2 different teams in playoffs, did end up sweeping the Hurricanes. Here we go again. Well, leave it to Jonathan Marchessault to level the scoreboard and to do so on the power play. Marchie has been so hot as of late, but put that aside, the consistency, the point streaks that he's had. In the regular season, Jonathan Marchessault led his team in power play goals. So this is no surprise here. If this is something he starts getting hot in when it comes to the Stanley Cup final, the Florida Panthers will be in trouble. He's already on a normal hot streak. And then on top of it, his efficiency on the power play, his unit on the power play, is one that you don't want to keep putting in positions to score. So Marchie levels it on the scoreboard in the first period. They're tied 1-1. Get into the second period, both teams pick up 1 extra goal. It was that third period where the Vegas Golden Knights just decided, we're going to just take off on these guys and pick up 3 whole goals. So we're going to talk about some things to consider as we head into this game 2 matchup. Florida lost their 8-2 road game streak on the road. VGK, Vegas Golden Knights, are 7-3 at home. Now, we also know that the Florida Panthers are still so cool, calm, and collected when being outshot by their opponent. But we will say this: Vegas Golden Knights are not as strong when being outshot by their opponent. So they're going to constantly try to come in loading up goals and trying to stay ahead of the charge when it comes to posting shots on net. If they get behind, the Florida Panthers will swing in and create some sort of chance for themselves. Now, within these points, as I mentioned, Vegas, 5 goals. Florida, 2 goals. Vegas Golden Knights' top 6 guys combined for 6 high-danger shots. The Florida Panthers' top 6 guys combined for 8 high-danger shots. Their cleanup on the rebounds were also a lot stronger. But where Vegas kind of had an upper hand here is that they went to work in the face-off circle in all 3 zones, dominating in the O zone, neutral zone, and D zone. And face-offs produce opportunities for success. Face-offs also produce opportunities for shots on goal and getting those sneaky, lucky bounces if you take the shot and aren't looking around all day to create passes. So with all of that in mind, let's also talk about the fact that Adin Hill had 33 saves and a monstrous save that will be on replay until halfway through next season. The Bobcat came up with 29 saves and one of his few under 900 performances. So we know that the Bobcat's going to want to get a couple goals back tonight. Now, we're not going to sit here and send the red flags and hit the panic button, because if there's one thing we saw is that this Florida Panthers team, the Rats, they like to claw their way back into situations. In round one, the only round where they didn't find themselves with a 3-0 series lead, they made a huge bounce back in game two, 6 goals worth, beating the Boston Bruins and a 6-3 win. And what we also saw there was their ability to not only force a team to play in their structure, but force a team to make mistakes. And that's going to be a big thing to pay attention to heading into this matchup. Now, another thing that we've talked about a lot when it comes to the Panthers versus the Vegas Golden Knights is the fact that both of these teams have pretty stellar blue liners, but different kind of blue liners. You've got the Florida Panthers, who have these endurance, longevity, very offensive defensive blue liners. Montour's been pretty silent the past couple of games. Forsling's been silent the past couple of games. Ekblad, same thing. So their blue liners, who are playing 22 plus minutes of ice time, haven't really been doing much. They've been posting some decent shots on goal, but we haven't seen them in the form that we saw them in games 1-3 versus the Hurricanes. Or, more importantly, games 4, 5, and 6, or 5, 6, and 7 versus the Bruins, 1, 2, and 3 versus the Maple Leafs. Which takes us to the comparison of the Vegas Golden Knights D-men. They've got a lot of size on them. Their frame, 6'2", 6'3", 200 plus pounds. They take up a lot of room, which means their ability to block shots is going to also count, with their size getting in the way. Their ability to take away some of those lucky bounces, and their fearlessness of putting their body on the line. Between Martinez, Petrangelo, and McNabb, you've got these defensemen that have no problem blocking shots and throwing themselves out there. And then on top of it, they have a couple stellar two-way guys that also rack up in the block shots column, surprisingly, but you got to have that next man up that can stand in and make sure that they shut down any offensive opportunity of their opponent. So that's where Vegas kind of comes in strong and hot. Now, Vegas is 8-3 when their opponent scores first. They do outshoot their opponent 7-0, but as I mentioned earlier, Florida Panthers aren't really affected by that. Jack Eichel reached 20 points with 2 assists in game one. Marchie's hanging out at 18 points. And as we know, he just keeps climbing in both categories: goal, assist, and points. Now, here's the thing. If Marchie doesn't open up and bring his own goal to the table tonight, he probably will end up in the assist column. That's just the kind of streak and movement that he has been on in playoffs. His playoff gear has been outstanding. Then we got to Shea Theodore with a 2-point night, and the silky smooth moves this man had on the blue line. You don't want him getting into any sort of rhythm, but Theodore is just one of the few defensemen that you have to worry about on this Vegas Golden Knights roster. And then you got Howden with an assist as well. Now, we've seen him on a little bit of a point streak here and there. As we mentioned, those top 6 guys are very, very productive. And when Mark Stone gets involved in the game and helps set his team up, open his guys up, draw defensemen on the opposing team, he's really good at doing that. And then the size and the ability that he can skate at doing so is chef's kiss for the Vegas Golden Knights. It's definitely not talked about enough. We talked about Mark Stone when he was sitting top 2 on the team for assists, but as that started to fall because other guys started getting on hot streaks, we started looking away from what Mark Stone does. But he does so well at drawing defensemen out and opening up those lanes for his teammates. So look out there. Now, Vegas Golden Knights had 26 scoring chances in comparison to the Florida Panthers' 23 scoring chances. Vegas had 13 high danger chances. Florida had 9 high danger chances, and the top line leading in that category, no surprise here, being Tkachuk, Cousins, and Bennett. And then Mark Stone line was actually one of the top producing lines in game one. That's a mouthful. Now, as you guys know, this is brought to you by Bet Online, and Bet Online before this show had a puck line plus 1.5 for Florida at a minus 225 and a minus 1.5 at a minus 195. Let us know, where do you think this puck line's going? Which puck line would you like to bet on? Cash, case, or cut? For this kind of bet, we'll probably look more so at cashing it or cutting it. You don't really have to case it. It is what it is when you got puck line, money line movement, and everything stayed pretty still over this day. So that just takes us to the most fun part and the best part of this show, being What are you casing? What are you cashing? What are you cutting? It's time to get to those best bets for the Stanley Cup Final Game 2. And I got to start with my guy, Barbashev. Over half a point at a -110 here. Playoff stats, 6 goals, 16 points, 56 hits. This is one of those two-way guys that I was talking about. He has the opportunity to loosen up the puck to make sure that his teammates can take an advantage there. He also has 10 assists on the team. So if he's not setting up his teammates for success, he's loading up when it comes to the physicality. And I was hoping we were going to see a little bit more pushing and shoving between him and Matthew Tkachuk, but it's still very early and it's still very new in the series. So take Barbashev for that over just half a point. He had assists in game 1. And if he's not in the assist column, usually find him getting a lucky bounce his way as well. Now, another guy who shouldn't be a surprise, we got Jonathan Marchessault over half a point at a -160. I took Marchie over the half a point for this segment because we're seeing him get on these point streaks when it comes to picking up goals. But also, as I mentioned, if he's not in the goal column, he's in the assist column for the night. 10 goals, 18 points. Marchie has 8 assists in playoffs so far. And his Lions production last game, 6 shots for, 3 high danger shots, 1 goal. So plenty of stats to back up the fact that Jonathan Marchessault will be in on the mix. And if they end up on the power play, then he's somebody who has been very consistent in the regular season with loading up on the tally there. Then we head over to the other bench really quick. Matthew Tkachuk. Now, I saw Tkachuk trying to get under everybody's skin in game 1, which is no surprise. But we'll say this. I think he'll reel in some of the antics a little bit and focus in on helping out his team, not only get on the board, but try to secure a W tonight. 9 goals, 21 points, 4 power play goals. So another guy very dangerous on special teams. Take him for over half a point at a -140. The most productive line out of the Panthers, of all the Panthers lines. 9 shots for, 6 high danger, and 1 rush attempt. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more action because they've got to apply more pressure to Adin Hill, who just continues to play outstanding between the pipes. Then this guy, when we talk about that clutch column, it's Sam Reinhart. Whenever the Florida Panthers come off of a performance that they don't particularly love, Sam Reinhart's one of those guys that tends to find the back of the net. Anytime goal for him at a +215. He has 7 goals in playoffs, 11 points, 3 power play goals. So now you got 2 strong guys on the power play. His Lions production with Lundberg and Lundell, 4 shots on goal, 1 goal because Lundell had the assist to Stahl in game 1. Then moving along, you guys know how I feel about this guy. Wild Bill, anytime goal, +235. 10 goals on the playoff season or post-game season, 14 points. Lions production, 5 shots for, 2 high danger, 1 rush in game 1. Another guy who I think has pretty outstanding two-way ability, but it's Wild Bill that comes in on those games to kind of alleviate their top scorers. And I think that his number of goals shows for that, number 1. But I like the line that he's working with. He ends up with Barbashev on a lot of opportunities as well. So the line changes that the Vegas Golden Knights have when they're trying to become less predictable opens up guys like William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, who's somebody else I'm drawing a blank on. Oh, Stevenson for one, or some of the defensemen like White Cloud or Theodore. Kolesar has been tremendous when it comes to picking up significant assists. And then, as you guys know, I think Nicholas Roy has been awesome with picking up assists and helping out in the assist column. So take Wild Bill. William Marchessault, or not William Marchessault, take William Karlsson, excuse me, guys, especially if he ends up on the line with Nicholas Roy at any point because they have tremendous chemistry. Roy knows how to set up William Karlsson and find him in those sweet spots. So whenever they get those lines thrown in the blender there, if Roy and Karlsson are on the same line, you're going to see something happen on that line. Then, as you guys know, moving out of these, we've got Matthew Tkachuk for most points in the series as a whole at a +240. I still am taking Karlsson to lead the series in scoring, but of course that's at a huge +1,300. And last but not least, series goes to those 6 games at a +205. So those are tonight's 5 best bets heading into the Stanley Cup Final Game 2. Let us know which bets you are cashing in on, casing or cutting. And if you are new with me to Kasing the League, cashing in means you like the bet just as much as I do. Casing it means you got to look into it a little bit further. Cutting it means this bet is not for you and you have no intention of taking it, which is totally fine as well. We love to hear from you, hear you guys' thoughts on these best bets, on the hot topics. Today we kind of breezed through hot topics because I wanted to get to the betting. The show's coming out a little later than I anticipated today, but let us know your thoughts on the best bets here on Kasing the League. Be sure to follow over at the Sports Case, Kase, or Kasing the League, Kasing, the league. And of course, follow Believe Network to stay up to date on all brand new episodes and all other amazing shows, whether it's hockey or any other sport that you love. And when it comes to best bets, you want to make sure you are following and placing your bets over at Bet Online, where the game starts. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Kasing the League. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.